There are 4,218 PS2 games, and I've got to beat every one of them. I've got to own the game because I'm playing on the original hardware, but I've beefed it up using a RetroTink 5X, some component cables, and more to come soon. Can I do this before I die of old age? I hope so. Resident Evil Outbreak File 2 is an expansion of sorts, released a year after the original Outbreak game. Outbreak was supposed to be a much larger game with more levels, around 15 total. It was split into 3 games, each with 5 levels, and sadly, the third game remains unfinished. Unless Capcom wants to give us a hand? Well, let's start by taking a look at the end of this very interesting series of Resident Evil games, and see if we still have what it takes to escape a zombie-infested Racoon City. Outbreak File 2 is essentially a 5-level DLC you would get that just kind of adds on to the original game, even though it is its own separate game. There are some important changes though. One of the biggest ones is that there are branching story paths in each level. They aren't necessarily good or bad endings, just kind of what happens, which is neat because it makes you feel like you got to make the choices, and what happens is because you made those choices. Honestly, after beating the game ourselves, looking up some of these alternate endings, I don't know how we would have found them, but they're also really neat, like surprisingly neat, and I'll explain a few of them at the end of the level when I get to it in the video. Another kind of big change is the fact that they allowed the character to move while aiming and shooting their gun. This is done by holding R1 to aim your weapon, holding L1 at the same time, which is a slightly new targeting system, which will help your character target enemies and also on the ground. They'll aim their aim down to the ground to shoot them. That way you don't have to follow them manually with your own aim. While you're holding both of those buttons, you can now move with the left analog stick and still fire. You move pretty slowly, but it is helpful if you're in the middle of shooting something. A lot of times you're trying to stagger the zombies to stop them from getting you. Now that you can move, you can really put a little bit of extra distance between you and the zombie, giving you a better chance to not get bit at all. I play this game with Tunuh co-op yet again, and both of us were so excited to use the moving and firing mechanic, and neither of us remembered it until the very last level, which is so sad, but that also means that you don't necessarily need it. It is not necessary, which is good because, you know, if you don't know it's there, you can still beat the game pretty easily. Those are the most significant changes, and because there's really nothing else, if you'd like to hear more about the basics of the game, I have the very first video on my channel. Otherwise, I'm just going to go into each level and speak about the level. I want this to be a little bit of a shorter video because it really is just more of the same. You're playing 5 levels with the same 5 characters doing the same thing, trying to escape this area. It takes about 20 minutes to 2 hours, depending on whether or not you already know the level, to beat each one. Once you beat it, that's it. You carry nothing over to the next level, and you can choose whatever level you want to play in whatever order you want. Even though we did go from 1 to number 5 in order, it doesn't matter. You can pick whatever you want. These are all separate scenarios. So let's get going on the first level. The first scenario is called Wild Things because we are trying to make our way through a zoo in the middle of town to get to a rescue helicopter. Sadly, the zombies aren't just people. They're also animals. Oh my god, that's right. Zombie animals chase us, and they are way faster and better than the human zombies. Don't worry, there are still regular zombies in the level, just not very many. Actually, very few in total. But we do get to fight a zombie hyena, and eventually we get to see the biggest zombie of them all, a zombie elephant. He is the main attraction of this level, and he follows you around to 4 or 5 different areas in the map. These areas are important because they are connectors between all of the small areas like office buildings, the bird cages and plant area, as well as this other area that we aren't sure what to do right away with, but we do figure it out later. Anyway, this elephant chases you through each of these zones, ramming into you with its tusks, just making a nuisance all over the place. And if you enter the building in the middle of the map, the elephant can find broken holes in the wall and windows to bash its head through and start smashing you around. So you have to watch out because suddenly there could be an elephant in your face. There aren't too many special puzzles in this level. The only big thing you have to do is find these coins for a raccoon statue and then reveal some lions on a painting, the red and blue paintings in the same office. Most of the time you're finding keys, unlocking doors, and just getting past all of the zombie animals, including one area that has some foreshadowing. There are some plants in this area with the birds that gonna grab your legs and shoot poison mist at you. It's a very small area and you don't have to deal with them much, but you'll see them later in another level. So just kind of get used to these stupid vines. You can shoot the vines and the plants, but it's almost not worth it here because it's only one area. You can just kind of run past them. We make our way through the level, finding some keys and some emblems to put in some doors, and eventually we find a weird room that looks kind of big. We lure the elephant, the zombie elephant, into this area by playing a parade BGM. This is probably supposed to be something it remembers from being alive when it was in parades, but it comes into this area and starts trying to find us. We then shut the gate. This also kind of makes the level go forward because it's the only way to get into a specific door. You don't have to capture the elephant, but you must close the doors because there is a key in the pocket of a person who's somehow on top of the gate, and when you open it, they fall. I'm not really sure how they got up there, but they were up there.
Oh, there's a... How do you get up there? That's impressive. Nice.
You can also capture the elephant here. Like I said, this is the way to get him captured rather than killing him. And we already wasted the ammo, but at least he's behind bars now, right? Well, once we do this and we get to the end of the level, we have to fight a zombie lion. Now, luckily, this guy really isn't too hard. I'm not sure why he isn't so hard, but the area is littered with just items to pick up before you fight him and during the fight. So it's never really that difficult. We have plenty of healing. We have plenty of bullets. Don't forget that this is a co-op game with up to 4 people. I'm not sure if they have a balance meter for how many people are actually in a room, or if they just always give you the amount of ammo and healing that 4 people would need, so they didn't have to balance things like that. Because both Tunuh and I are always loaded with ammo and healing constantly. And that's good because just like in the other game, you've got to watch your zombie virus spread. And my spread, being Mark, is just insane. I am taking healing items pretty much the second I find them to stop that spread. We mostly get through the game easily because of that. I mean, you know, I pay attention to it at this point. I learned from the first one, but it's difficult. And I'm glad that they add so many healing items. The problem is like, if you have 4 people, you really got to do this quick because Mark only has so much healing, and I'm sure the other 3 people need some healing as well. So it is a little bit of a balancing act. With the 2 of us though, I pretty much just slam every herb and first aid spray down my throat until I feel better. Once we beat the lion, that's it. The scenario is done. There are other ways to deal with this scenario, but nothing too interesting here. It's just a few little branching paths depending on what you find in the level. Scenario 2 is called Underbelly, and this one's a little weird. See, you're in a subway system, and it's kind of difficult to find your way around. The map is helpful, and you can see the doors you've gone through and the doors you haven't gone through, but a lot of times I feel turned around with how similar different areas of the subway work. And they are kind of interconnected, but they aren't interconnected in a way that makes it easy for me to understand. Maybe other people, maybe Tunuh was understanding it better than I was, but I was having some trouble and I kept getting lost trying to find him. Luckily, he was able to find a way around the subway, and our whole goal is to try and get on a subway train to leave the area. When we finally do unlock the subway train to have power to move, another subway comes in from out of nowhere and blows up, and there's fire everywhere. Now we cannot get to the original train. So now we have to find some duct tape, and we have to duct tape a pipe, turn on some water, and get the sprinkler system to put the fire out. During this time, we're finding some keys. We solve a few small puzzles, nothing too big, and eventually, once we put the fire out, we somehow release fleas. Giant, enormous fleas. I'm not really sure why they decided it was time for enormous fleas, but that's what happened. And if they jump on you, they'll suck your blood and turn enormous, like way bigger, 2 or 3 times bigger than they were before. And those things chase you so fast. It is not worth fighting them if you can just run past them. It is way better to just run past them. So once we finally get back to the platform with the train we were originally going to take, one of the characters gets abducted by the fleas.
Oh my god. If the trains are rocking.
Don't come a ticking. What the fuck? Hey!
See ya.
Seriously, they get abducted by the fleas. Of course, the entire time the fleas are here, they love me, so the boss abducts me. I wake up in a random little passage with the boss looking at me, and now I've got to fight. Tunuh has to run all the way across the level to get to me because he wasn't aware this was going to happen. Neither of us were, so he has to come in and help me. This boss fight actually brings me out of the Resident Evil veil a little bit while I'm playing because this boss does not make any sense. I don't like that the fleas roll up and then roll down the passageway and smash into you. Like, I don't think any other Resident Evil game has had something quite like this. Although Resident Evil 5 and stuff is comical with the boulder punching, this is weird. Like the fleas just rolling up and smashing down the path. I don't even know how to get out of the fucking way. You can see us just get mauled by these dudes over and over. We do beat the boss, which is fine, but these things are weird and I don't like that they're rolling down the, the passageway to get us.
I'm not gonna make it. This is
Oh,
stupid.
bro, what the fuck, man? Now, this level does have some branching paths. If we miss the subway train, we can actually break out another way, apparently through some kind of vent. And we didn't do this ourselves, we were able to make it onto the train just fine, but it's kind of cool that if you miss and mess up the boss fight, you can still escape and be fine, because honestly, it would suck if you spent 2 hours doing this and then suddenly they're like, oh, yeah, by the way, you just weren't quick enough at the end. It's like, but I didn't know I had to be, so I have to do 2 hours again just because I was not quick enough. On to scenario 3 called Flashback. This one, to me, seems the most interesting because not only does the level get determined by the things you do in it, but also a character that you play, Alyssa. If you play her, apparently you get flashbacks, which is probably why it's called this, because apparently she had something to do with some of the characters in the level, and you actually get to learn a little bit more about it. Now, we didn't know this, and we didn't play Alyssa. Tunuh plays Yoko, and I play Mark. So we didn't get to see these flashbacks, which is a little sad, and there's no way for us to have known unless we played enough or accidentally chose Alyssa to play. So it's a little sad we didn't get to see it, and I do wish there was a way for it to be like, oh yeah, by the way, if you play Alyssa, this is, it's probably the right character to play, or bring along with you, whatever. Okay, so let me tell you what we did first, and then I'll tell you the different endings you can possibly get in this level. At first, you start in a small cabin, and a very obviously evil guy named Al or Albert leads you through the woods to a broken down hospital. Once you get into the hospital, eventually the bridge leading to the hospital breaks, meaning that we cannot leave unless we move forward. The entire time we are in this kind of dilapidated hospital, we are chased by an axe-wielding maniac that, as far as I know, we can't kill. He can be stopped. In fact, if we shoot him enough times, he suddenly becomes intangible and just runs away with the axe above his head. You'll never know when he does it because it's hard to tell when he's going to, but if he starts running away from you or towards you and through you, then he's probably just running away, and he won't hit you at all. He'll just run right through you. But your bullets will also miss. Sometimes the feedback from that is too late, and I waste almost a whole other clip thinking he's not ready to be, scared. So it's a little sucky. I'm not sure about the Axeman. Honestly, we don't really need him. He's not necessary in this level. There's already plenty to deal with. But the main thing in this level is to destroy different plants that are blocking your way. There's one big main plant down in the basement that we can actually see from the very early stages of this level. However, the only way to actually kill it is to destroy 3 or 4 other parts of the plant in various areas around the hospital. I'm not that big of a fan of the layout of the hospital because your whole idea is to get these serum-filled syringes and use them on different parts of the plant. Each time you do this, it opens up a new area. However, sometimes you go forward and go further and further and go further and further, and there's just so many little rooms with little things in them. Some of them are important, some of them aren't. It's not always easy to tell, and sometimes you hit a locked door and now you must go find exactly where you're supposed to get behind this locked door. It's pretty obvious where you need to go next, but how do you get there? And it's just difficult to figure out. Eventually, we do find our way through using the serum to break the plants. We do find ourselves with some poison spewing plants that can be destroyed by guns, but it takes quite a bit of ammo to kill it. The best way to do it is to either run past them, time your movement between their poison blasts, which they do have a long cooldown before they use it again, and you can find a way through, but you can also use the flame rounds of a grenade launcher to kill them instantly. But there are only a few, so obviously you gotta be careful aiming, otherwise you're gonna miss and lose all the flame ammo. And it's really helpful on the boss, considering it's still part of the plant. Once we move through these areas and kill the plants, eventually we're able to find the last part of it, and it then allows us to go fight and kill the plant downstairs. I'm not sure if you can kill it earlier or later, I'm not really sure, but it seems like you've got to do this and activate this cutscene showing the plant, and then you can go kill it. Once you kill it, you then have to find your way through a specific door in the hospital that during a section of the level does get locked. It shows you, it's very obvious. It says, hey, this is important later. The plant grows up around the door and then you immediately walk over to it and you can't open it. This is, good foreshadowing, like, hey, you've got to come here later, right? Like this is where you need to go, but you have to remember where. The one big caveat of this is that the door you go through to find this end door is behind a weird section of the hospital. It's blocked. The hallway is blocked and you've got to find your way around. Well, during the level, it's blocked the entire time until you kill the plant. Once you kill the plant, for some reason, those couple objects were removed from that hallway, letting it be easier for you to go through. But it's not very obvious because you're expecting it to be blocked. And it doesn't look that much different. You just run down the hallway and there's just a few less things at the bottom of the screen. If you know where it is, you can just run right through and get to the door. If you don't, you try your best to run all the way around to where you think you remember getting to that door in the first place. So I feel like if the hallway was viewed from a different angle, right? The camera in the hallway was viewing exactly what was blocking the door when you started the level, the first time you came in this hallway, then you'd be able to see easily that those items or objects were missing. Now the second time coming through, I see that these things are just barely missing at the bottom of the screen, somewhere we're not necessarily looking all the time, especially since we've expected these things to still be there. I don't like that, but it's okay. We found our way through. The first time we lost because we couldn't find the door. The second time we figured it out pretty quickly, which is great. And then we get out of the hospital and it's over. We learn that Al or Albert, whatever this guy's name is, this plant is actually his wife or something, and she was eating people and he was feeding them to her. So obviously she's dead now, and Al's out of there. He's out of there. So we make it through flashback pretty easily. Now, the differences in this are weird. So there are several different endings because in the hospital you can find some different files and documents. If you find those files and documents, it actually apparently changes the ending, which is kind of cool. It's not big, but it is enough to say that they're different. So if you miss them, whatever, you get to miss some of the stuff, as well as not using Alyssa, you get to miss all that stuff. So we didn't really get to learn a lot about Albert and his wife, Dorothy, apparently, who are the plant and the guy, respectively. But if, when you are playing the level, you cross the bridge at the beginning of the level and go into the hospital, the bridge will break. If you stay on the other side of the bridge in the early forest level and then the bridge breaks, there's a completely different set of things you do. You never go to the hospital, apparently, which is kind of neat. That would have been nice for us to know. We would have got to skip the fucking plant and the axe wielding man. So it's interesting to see what choices they made. That's a cool choice. I'm glad they did. I even mentioned in the game, hey, I wonder what would happen if we did this. Scenario 4 is called Desperate Times and takes place in Resident Evil 2's very opening area, the Racoon City Police Department. We even get to see some of the characters we see dead in Resident Evil 2. We get to meet them before they die. We know what happens to them now that we've played Resident Evil Outbreak File 2, which is kind of cool. So if you don't know, here it is. We go through the police department pretty much just doing one thing. We find these 6 different stones, and they're all different colors, and what we're doing is we're putting them into this angel statue to eventually open up something for a policewoman to go through a vent and find help for us. That's it. We go around the police station fighting zombies in the normal way, finding these things hidden around. There are a couple little puzzles here and there. Honestly, this isn't very memorable because it's just a hunt and fetch quest. I mean, yeah, all of them are to some extent, but you learn really early on that you're just finding these stones and you're looking around until you find them. And if you don't see them, you gotta go back through every room and make sure you've hit every single button on everything in the room. Eventually, you'll find all of them, and they do find a way to get out. The problem is that it's too late. Zombies have flooded the station. Depending on what difficulty you play at the end of the level, you walk outside and you must kill a certain number of zombies. You don't know how many, it just ends when you kill the right number. So it's a little difficult to know what you're about to get into. And if you've used a lot of your ammo up, you're pretty screwed. In fact, we almost did not make it because we didn't have enough ammo. There are a couple things in the police station that allow you to get little stashes of weapons. And we didn't get any of them because we were running behind and it was getting late and we're like, we need to finish this. We don't need to get these weapons. Well, you do. There's just a computer that unlocks a couple locks around the area that will give you some ammo and some guns, and they are helpful. And I recommend that if you have the chance, get them. Don't come outside unless you get them, because we were super close. We also see the character from Resident Evil 2, Marvin, stay behind in the police station as we and the woman cop leave. She comes to get us in a truck and we leave, and he, I guess, locks himself in. He does live long enough to crawl into a room and lock himself in. Near the beginning of Resident Evil 2, you get to see this guy dead, and he gets up as a zombie and comes to get you. In the final scenario, End of the Road, we finally fight the big bad boss. Because the last level didn't have a boss, it was more just a big horde of zombies. This one actually has a boss, and it's Tyrant. I mean, some version of Tyrant. Doesn't necessarily have to be the Tyrant, but you start in the Umbrella Laboratory, and there's 2 scientists, and they are a little scared because obviously there's a bunch of zombies. And hunters. Ooh, there's hunters. And they aren't that hard, and honestly, there aren't that many. And once you get past a few of them, that's it. You never see them again. But during this section, you'll be finding 2 key cards, a level 1 key card and a level 2 key card. You're walking around, opening different doors, you put a password in once or twice, and you find the key card 1. This unlocks many of the doors leading up to the scientists. Once you do this, they unleash Tyrant themselves, who is apparently programmed to be your friend. And for about 10 minutes, he is your friend. He'll walk around, and if you stay near him, he'll kill hunters for you. He follows you, but he's nice. nice. He actually helps us, which is cool. I mean, you know, this is a good spot to not use any ammo and save it up, although you get a lot later. But this is a good spot to just save ammo while he kills the hunters for you. Making your way through the Umbrella Laboratory is a slow process because there's a lot of doors and a lot of places to go, and it's not real clear where we need to get the level 2 key card. Once we get to a very specific spot, we are trying to unlock a door. One of the scientists has the way to unlock the door, but she's the only one who knows how. The second we get there, the tyrant just goes mad and throws the woman scientist down the sewer, and the man scientist gets killed. So now we have to go find her, the only person who knows how they open the door, and we're now being chased by the tyrant. He's pissed and he's mean. So it doesn't matter now, he's gonna try and kill us. Apparently, you can kill him in this area, or at least so says the wiki. I'm not sure though. We never tried to fight him because usually being chased by a tyrant like that means you can't kill them. They're invincible, but you know, you just need to dodge them. Once we finally find our way through, which is a little difficult, we actually get lost and can't find the way out, which is this weird wall that you can break and climb through. Once you do that, you find the woman that the tyrant has thrown down into the sewers. She is alive, and once we find her, this water just comes rushing through and washes us away. Now there's two differences here. You either kill the tyrant and get washed through the sewers with this woman, or you don't kill the tyrant, like us, and you don't get washed all the way through. You actually get put in a specific spot where you go climb up into the city, and it's a different area. You don't go back to the laboratories, so anything you left back there is gone. Don't worry, you won't be going back. Now you head your way through the city, fighting zombies, and occasionally finding the tyrant. He is changed at some point. He gets stronger and really chases you down. You do have to fight him a bit, but you don't kill him, or you don't have to kill him. I think we killed him. I don't know, it's really hard to tell. There's a lot going on in these areas. Once you find your way through and you kind of kill him, he's not really dead yet, there is another boss that comes down and absorbs this tyrant. And now they're together, they're extra strong. This is the last boss of the game, for us at least. And we're in this small kind of bridge-like area with a road and a bunch of vehicles broken down, a bunch of weapons around. We've gathered tons of ammo, and we have this one last standout until we finally destroy the boss. Now, the boss is not necessarily straightforward. You're supposed to deal a bunch of damage to him, and then he falls down on his knee. You must then continue to damage him until his heart pokes out, and you can shoot it with something like a rocket launcher or a revolver. But it's not apparent when you can shoot the heart all the time. Sometimes you hear the heartbeat noise and it's pretty loud, and that's when you can do it. But there's two problems here. One, we weren't really aware that bringing him down to his knee meant that we still had to damage him for the heart to come out. We got too excited and fired immediately when he got down on his knee. And then the heart just took forever. I mean, we shot him with the rocket launcher and his heart didn't come out. I'm so confused about how much damage we need to do this guy. Well, once he gets down on his knee and his heart does come out, you can shoot it and it does do extra damage to him. You can kill him without shooting it, I think. I'm not really sure. Like I said, this is really difficult to understand. I think playing this 4 or 5 times is what will help us understand. So the other thing is that sometimes the camera placement makes it impossible to see when he's down on his knee if his heart comes out. You have to rely on the sound of his heart, and then you also have to rely on the fact that you're still facing his heart. I never felt comfortable when he was facing away from the camera shooting at his heart. I didn't want to mess up, and honestly, we did mess up a lot. We used every fucking bullet, every grenade, every rocket, everything, all of it. The end of the game, we were worried we weren't going to be able to beat. Suddenly, Tunuh finds a full grenade launcher at the side of the stage, runs up and blasts him with all 8 shots, and then we win. I don't know how we did it yet again, running out of almost all ammo. Just like in the last level where we were fighting the zombies, we ran out of all our bullets and I pulled out a knife. We pulled out knives and I just started ramming people, and we happened to kill one more zombie and it was the end. This is the same way. We ran out of all our ammo and we were about out of options. We would have had to start the level over and figure it out from there, which this is a long last level. There are different ways to win and lose this level. Apparently the scientist, this woman, Linda, you can carry her, you can save her, she can die, you can not find her at all and then still get washed away in the sewers. There's lots of ways for this to happen, and there's also ways for the character to kill the tyrant early, to not kill the tyrant early. It's kind of neat, all the different options you have. And once you get good at a level, you can start to find these little extra parts and, try new things. That's really neat. That's what makes the longevity of this game stand out. It's not, number 1 does have a few endings at different points, really just the last level. And once you know a level, you just run through it as fast as possible. I'm sure there's a couple things, but this one is way more about trying new things once you learn a level, because once you know what to do, the quicker you get there, the more time you have to look around. That's where the fun comes from, of replaying these levels. It's neat that they spent the time to make these extra story paths, because it does differentiate itself from number 1, just in a different way. It's not obvious right away that you can do these things. In fact, we didn't know until we looked it up to see all these different endings. And at first it seems bad, but I don't know, it depends. It depends on what you want to get from the game. If you want more, you'll get more. If you want a just solid, quick experience like we did, it was perfect. We got to experience the game in a way that was really fun. We found our own way through, and it was very unique because we did and didn't do things, and we got the endings we got. So yeah, well, that is it. Game number 48 was beaten. Co-op, online. You can do this yourself. If you go back to the first video, and I'll also include a link here from the first video, you can find a YouTube channel that'll help you see what you need to do to set this whole thing up. It is not hard, and you can play with anyone online anywhere. Tunuh is in Japan, I'm in the States. We could play together just fine. It was great. And there are other people playing. When we were on there was about 15 people in different parties and rooms waiting and seeing if there's anyone else who wants to play. Generally, the community seems pretty nice, and I think there's a Discord you can join where you can enter a lobby with someone in the Discord or a chat room, and you can talk to people, and that way it's, because the in-game, there's no in-game chat, it's all just the players pushing the right analog stick and the characters saying something helpful. Nothing like being able to talk to each other like games nowadays. So it's nice to be able to do that, and you can find people who will help you learn the game, and then you can get better at it, and you can try for times, you can try new characters, and just like the first one, there are about 50 or 60 extra characters. In the last level, the second time we play it, I actually play as Mrs. Water, and she isn't that much, she's not like a god tier character. She is better, I suppose, but nothing too crazy. She has an herb bag, and she runs a little faster and has a little less virus spread than Mark, but in the end, it didn't really matter because we weren't fighting the zombies killing us, we were fighting the boss losing all our ammo. So, it's cool that they have all these characters though, because like I said, they fill out different niches along the community. That way you can all try different parties and groups, like a workshop. Oh, well, will these characters work well together? How fast can we beat it if we have these characters? It's the quickest we can beat it with the best characters or the worst characters, all that stuff. So this game has a lot of fun to it, a lot of extras with the online mode and the community that has been built around it. So I definitely recommend it. But that's it. Game number 48 is beaten, and we're on to 49, which I already beat on stream. 13. That's right. The video for that will be coming out soon. I want to thank Tunuh for playing co-op with me. This has been so fun. I really love playing co-op games with him, and just in general, playing co-op is a fun experience. And we can play PS2 games online. Holy shit. And we're going to do more. I'm just going to let you know that we're playing more co-op games. My sister and I might be playing Monster Hunter Dose. I think Tunuh and I will be playing Siphon Filter. I already played Omega Strain, but we'll be playing that again. It'll be a bonus video. It'll be video number 16 and a half. So you get to see the co-op side of the game without it, cutting into the actual number of games I play. But, a bonus video is always great. We'll go over a little bit about that. I'll make it a shorter video, but whatever. And I also want to thank the patrons. Again, thank you guys so much. I never expected anyone to join, but 4 people have joined. 2 people have joined the free just to see, what the Patreon's about. And it makes it so that I can get new PlayStation 2 stuff. It's exactly what's happened. In fact, I just was able to buy a Japanese PS2 game for the first time. Everyone thought it'd be kind of neat. And I region broke my PS2. I can now play any game on my PS2. So I can play these Japanese games on here, and people have suggested games. We just got a lot of cool stuff. The community has been great. I want to thank everyone at this point. Anyone who's watched this video. It's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed doing this, and it's going to be so much fun. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Thank you all for watching the video. I will see you next time. Later.